Hey guys and girls and everything in between, it's your podcasting pal, Psycho Steve. Today, we are very fortunate and blessed to have a new member of Hair Today, Gone Tomorrow family, the drummer extraordinaire of the great band and one of my favorite bands, Enough's Enough, Mr. Dan the Man Hill. Welcome, Dan.
Ooh, happy to be here.
Well, happy to have you. So we're going to just jump right in and everything. You've been playing drums for how long now?
Oh, geez. I've been playing since I was 3. I was a pots and pans kid. So I used to take Tupperware and everything out of cabinets and break my mother's wooden spoons on them. So
nice.
I think they got wise after a certain point in time, and they're just like, geez, we got to get this guy a drum kit.
Right on.
That's how it started. There was no rhyme or reason as to why I did that. It's I'm sure you've heard this a million times before, but it was kind of built into me.
Right. Nothing wrong with that. Was drums your first? I guess drum was your first instrument.
Yeah. So when I was 3, after the pots and pans thing got old, my parents got me this little toy drum kit, right? And
right.
I would sit there and bash on that, and eventually I tore through that when I was about 5, and they decided to get me it was a TKO percussion kit. So I bashed through that, and then off to the races. So I mean, I'm a young cat, right? So I'm 30. So
oh wow.
Yeah, so I've been doing this since I was 3. So kind of crazy, man. 27 years later, still smashing some drums. So
yeah, and doing a hell of a great job. I've seen you multiple times.
Dude, thank you, man.
No problem.
So kind of. It's my life's passion. I'm a gigantic soapbox advocate. Anybody that's like, hey, like, I want to play drums, I'll talk to you for an hour and a half about it. So,
well, growing up with go ahead.
No, that's just who I am. I'm Mr. Soapbox guy.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, growing up with a musical family besides yourself, and of course we know your father being, from rock and roll, royalty himself.
Oh, we get to. I'm so excited we get into this because of the fact that.
Yes.
So I'm sure you heard Chip's rap on stage.
Yeah.
Where they say that 2 years ago I was the son of Bobby Hill from King of the Hill, or Hank Hill from King of the Hill.
Right.
So long story short, I have no relation to ZZ Top whatsoever.
Okay.
I have to talk myself off a ledge to fans every single show. Where they come to me, oh my God, I have your dad's hat. I'm just like, oh, dude.
Okay.
I have your dad's hat. I have your dad's, me and your dad hung out one time and, had some vodka cranberries. I'm just like, man, hate to break it to you. So no relation whatsoever. But I actually don't come from a musical family. No one in my family plays music.
Oh, okay. Well, we heard it here first, everybody. Not last, because he does tell this to everybody that comes to Enough's Enough show that Dan Hill is not related to Dusty Hill. So thank you for clarifying that.
You're very welcome. That's it's been a topic of, and that's hilarious. Chip is actually calling me on the other line. That's too funny. Yeah, he heard us.
Hello. Of course. He's probably listening in right now. No. So were you self-taught or did you actually take lessons?
So I took lessons from a few people in the Chicago area.
Okay.
I grew up being self-taught. So when I was in, 7th, 8th grade, I was in school band, right? Playing jazz standards. So I've told this story before to a few of my friends, but it's actually kind of funny. So, so in jazz band in school, right, we were playing, there's a jazz standard called Pennies from Heaven. super swingy and straight ahead, and one of the lamest standards, in the jazz catalog. So,
right.
But I'm a rock guy at the time, right? So I'm back there playing System of a Down during while everybody else warms up the woodwinds, right? So you're playing Chop Suey.
I was just about to say sugar.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the jazz band director ended up being like, hey man, like, would you want to do like the drum solo? It was like the big honor back in middle school. You want to do the drum solo like in the middle of Pennies from Heaven. So it's this straight ahead swing thing. So it's bang, dang, da dang, dang, da dang.
Right.
So the drum solo comes, and I start doing these straight ahead 16th notes, right? This totally out of place, the worst solo known to man. But that's kind of what put me on the path. So to circle back here, I started taking lessons at this place called the Drum Pad, which was a shop. It's no longer around now, but from this guy Brad Schluter, and he whipped my butt into pretty good shape. Except I was a young teenager at the time, so 13, 14, and I wasn't listening to anybody's advice at the time. I thought I had it all together, like any teenager, right?
Right, absolutely.
So yeah, I took lessons from him. I never did jazz band in high school. I was actually playing in a blues band, this kid band that I was in with a bunch of my friends, and a family friend. And that's actually, if you want me to get into it, that's actually how I got my chops together, because that's all I would do 8 hours a day. We'd practice in the basement of this dude's house. And he played in the band. His name was Mike Crick. He played in the Chicago band called Mike and the Mechanics, not the actual Mike and the Mechanics.
Right. That's Michael Weatherford from Genesis.
Right. Yeah. So not the Mike Rutherford. So that's what he would do. It was just us kids, these young teenagers, and he'd lock us in the basement with the heat on for 8 hours in the summer, and said, "You're not coming up until it's right." And that's what we did. We just ran original tunes, ran Zeppelin tunes, ran Hendrix tunes for 8 hours a day, every single day.
Sweet.
So yeah, and I mean, he ended up building this, he's still got it there. I think I haven't talked to him in a while, but he built this sound stage down on North and Clybourne, 3012 North Clybourne.
Nice.
So he built this sound stage that we got to be practiced on. So full on lights. He had at the time like the Tascam, those deck recorders. Yeah. So he would put those on, and that's what we would do every single day, just like jam on the sound stage. And the band actually ended up getting an offer from Sony ATO, but we were kids, right? So the parents kind of said when the whole power of attorney thing came up, there's like, hey, we want a deal. And, the label's like, hey, we don't want to deal with parents. So, there's like, well, we need power of attorney. And the parents said, no, we're not giving you power of attorney. And that kiboshed that whole operation. But it was, yeah. But that's what we would do, man. That's kind of the deal. And I mean, of course, I went to college as well. So I took lessons from a dude named Tom Hipskind. At Columbia downtown Chicago. So I was in the music department there for a few years before I was kind of just like, I don't know if this program's giving me what I want. So I ended up kind of bailing out of that. So, but it was a good experience. I mean, been fortunate to be around a lot of great players. So, but yeah, I mean, of course you have your influences growing up and things like that. So
right.
I've kind of jumped all across the board when it comes to that. But anyway.
Right on. So do you play any other instrument besides drums?
I do. I play piano. I wouldn't consider myself a virtuoso piano player. Right. But I actually compose a little bit in my free time for orchestra and trailer music.
Awesome.
So that's kind of one of those things that I found, I was living in LA at the time, and I had this, this thing in my head, and it's like, oh my God, I hear everything with strings. I don't know why, But it's something that's built into me. So if I'm hearing a song, I'm just like, oh, there'd be a cool string line here. So I play a little bit of piano, but nothing to. I'm not going to hop up on stage and blow you away with some Beethoven.
Okay.
So, you know,
no Vivaldi for you, huh?
No, I mean, not to say that I'm not into that stuff, because that's a lot of that stuff is what I listen to in my free time. So the Beethoven and the Mozarts and the Danny Elfmans and the Hans Zimmers of the world. So big fan of all that stuff.
Me too. It's incredible. So
yeah, man.
So how did you get the gig with Enough's Enough? Being just a native Chicago person?
Yeah. So I'll give you the rundown, right? So I had just moved back from LA. I was living there for a few years, bouncing around, doing the whole LA song and dance vibe. And so I moved back around 2014, and the first person I actually met when moving back, I knew who Chip was, but I met him on a session for a totally unrelated record back at this place called Stonecutter, where Diamond Boy, the guy that runs Stonecutter, Chris Steinmetz, actually mixed and mastered Diamond Boy. So I was on a totally unrelated session with him. So I met Chip and we did this thing. We ended up joining a band together a few months later, like a local Chicago band, just doing original tunes. That band was called Super Big. So we were playing in that together for a few years, and during that time, I had met Tony doing sessions over at Chip's house. So during this time, I was doing like a lot of different records and stuff coming out of Chicago and through different studios, and whatever calls come in. You know what I'm saying? So So 2016 rolls around, and I'm on my way to a gig on a boat, like a ferry. So there's this place in northern Chicago called Blarney Island. Yeah. So you take this ferry up to this island, and you play on this island, like a party island sort of thing. So anyway, I get a phone call from Tony. He's like, "Mate, what are you doing?" I'm just like, "I'm on a boat, dude. I got my drums on this boat going up to this gig." So he's like, "Hey man, like their drummer at the time couldn't do the tour that they had coming up in October. So they're just like, hey man, would you want to sub for this tour?" And I'm like, "Sure, dude. Like that sounds like a good time." So I sub out all my gigs, get everything together. And so there was no rehearsal for this tour. Not one. Wow. I hadn't even met Tori. So I only knew Chip and Tony. Right. So I basically show up to the first date of this tour, and I walk in, and Tori's like, who's this kid, right? Like he's gonna screw everything up. It's gonna be a mess. So first gig was Spicoli's in Iowa. Second gig was Vamped in Vegas, and then the third gig was a sold out whiskey show. Right. And the first few gigs, I had made charts, right. So I had made a few charts for these things just to make sure I had it all together. So I knew by that gig, get off the charts. I'm not a big fan of bringing charts on stage, but I'm just like, I don't want to screw this up. So amped out of my face, just doing push-ups in the hotel room while these guys are taking a nap, sort of thing. And, so we ended up doing this tour. It was the last tour Tracy Guns did before they reunited as the official LA Guns with Phil. Right. So it was supporting them. So we did this whole tour, and he's like, hey, at the end of it, we're somewhere in Canada. They're like, hey man, would you want to do this full time? And I'm like, yes, sure. It's going to be great. So that's how it happened. A sub gig turned into a full time thing. Right on. Now, were you an Enuff fan prior to being the drummer for Enuff Enough? Yes. So that's actually pretty funny. I would listen to that kind of stuff because, everybody in Chicago that's anywhere near the rock and roll world basically knows the band. Right. So I would listen to a lot of that stuff, and especially, coming up, I used to see Chip and everybody else playing places like the Double Door and, Metro and all of those sorts of things. So I was really privy to the music. What I wasn't aware of was actually how much of it there was.
Right.
There was a ton of it, just unbelievable songs, and it's I feel very grateful to wake up every day and get to play great music with great people. So it's a blessing, man.
Awesome. Now, did you ever see them perform, like with Johnny, or did you ever see them with Donnie? I know that's kind of confusing, Donnie and Johnny. But
Johnny and Johnny. Actually, before I joined Enuff, me and Johnny had we were doing like this side thing.
Right.
It was called Johnny Monaco and the Socialites.
Oh, yeah.
And
he mentioned it on Facebook.
Yeah. So, like, that was back in 2015,
right.
Early 2016. So, we never actually got out and played when I was doing that, but we basically jammed a few times, a bunch of blues tunes and Hendrix stuff, and we recorded some things, and yeah, so nothing like that ever came to fruition. But so Johnny and I have played together a tiny little bit, but Donnie and I have not. So
have you ever met Donnie?
I haven't.
Gotcha. Okay.
Nope, I have not met Donnie, which is actually, never had the opportunity. So,
gotcha. So when you're not being a rock star, what do you do on your free time?
Ooh, free time. I like to cook a ton. I'm not a big TV watcher, but if I'm watching TV, I'm watching like the Cooking Network.
Cool.
So I'm watching like Chopped. I'm like,
right.
That guy's getting chopped. That chick's getting chopped. So I love cooking, man. And, this is going to sound really lame, but I just like playing, man. In my free time, I'm playing. I play a ton every day. And by playing, I mean drums.
Right.
It's something that I'm just, for lack of a better term, obsessed with. So it's the constant war of attrition for me. And the more hours you put in, the more you get out.
Awesome.
So I find it to be it's like Zen for me. It's my own private island on the instrument.
Gotcha. So I'm assuming you can play to a click track.
Actually, every Enuff show is to a click track.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting. Did not know that.
Yeah. So yep. All my practicing, or I should say most of my practicing, is done to a click.
Cool.
So very, very familiar with my old best friend / worst enemy.
Nice.
The click never lies.
True story. Well, because I know some like very well-known drummers and some really well-known bands don't know how. And it's crazy. For example, Peter Criss, one of the founding members of KISS, he doesn't know how.
That's interesting. I actually haven't heard him talk about that, but I could actually get into the philosophy of a click track if you want. I don't want to get too crazy drum nerd on the old podcast here, but at the end of the day, you use it as a guide. It's not. You don't want to be shooting darts at a dartboard. You'll hear a lot of people kind of aiming for the quarter note.
Right.
It ends up sounding robotic.
Right.
The reason you probably don't know everything's to a click for Enuff shows because it doesn't sound robotic.
True.
It doesn't sound like everything's just like right there. And that's because of the fact that A, I've been playing with a click a long time. B, I have it really, really low in my mix. It's a guide. It's not the be all end all. So you try to play with it as far as like accompaniment, not like, oh my God, I got to catch up, or oh my God, I'm behind. If that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. Totally.
Yeah.
So that's very cool, because I have a cousin that's a pretty profound drummer. He went to the Drummers Collective in New York City.
Great.
Yeah. And that's all he does. He sleeps with his drumsticks under his pillow. He sleeps with drums. That's it. So, and his father was a drummer. I come from a long list of family members on both sides of the family that are musicians. Me, I have the perfect face for radio, so that's why I stuck with doing this.
You have a beautiful face. What are you talking about?
Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. Got some love from Dan Hill, not the son of Hank Hill or Dusty. So I'm making sure we say that loud and proud.
So loud and proud. Yeah,
exactly.
Not the thing. But if you don't mind me asking, who did he study under when he was at the Collective?
Let me see. One of them was actually a guest that we had on the show, Sandy Gennaro.
Sure. Awesome.
He also Liberty DeVito.
Oh wow! There you go.
Yeah, and I don't know his last name, but he plays with Paul McCartney and the Saturday Night Live band, Sean something.
Sean Pelton.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a list of names right there. Those are amazing players.
Yeah, and there was a couple metal guys that came in just to do stop by and say hi and do one show, or not one show, but one tutorial.
Sure.
So he did it with Jason Bittner that used to be in Shadows Fall. Now he's in Anthrax, or he fills in for Anthrax when Charlie's not feeling good or whatever. And then he also does Overkill.
Sure. With Jason in the room, that'll get your double bass chops together real quick.
Yeah, well, actually, my cousin went into that contest, the world's fastest drummer.
Sure.
And he's like the 10th fastest double bass person in the world or something like that. So
I have comments on the world's fastest drummer competition, but I will keep them to myself.
Okay. And then you talk about paradiddles and stuff like that. And
oh yeah, it's gonna get, if you keep throwing rudiments at me, it's gonna get real nerdy on this podcast.
That's cool. Hey, geek is chic. Don't worry, it's all good.
Yeah, man, that's great though. Good for him. That's what it's all about, man. It's being around as many musicians and as many great players and great people, most importantly, as possible.
Well, I told him when he first started, because he's now in several bands. He plays with Constantine Marsalis of American Idol. And he does that. He does the Rock of Ages. Then when they do the tribute show, and then he is in a band called Midnight Eternal that he actually got on tour. Did direct support with Queensryche and Armored Saint, because they're more like a prog rock band with a female fronted singer. And I just told him, all you need to do is just come with me to shows, bring a handful of CDs, put your name on the CD, your email address on the CD, and your phone number on the CD, and say, hey, I'm a drummer. I went to the Drummers Collective. I'm a virgin. I don't have a girlfriend. I'm not married. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I don't have any kids. I have a passport. My mom and dad spoil me rotten. They bought me a condo, so I don't have any bills. So if you need me to go on tour or go in the studio for you, I'm your man. And I can play any type of style of music. And I told him that, and I said, guess what? Then you're going to get gigs. I hooked him up, the bass player to Symphony X, and he did a project with him, and then it just led into more things. And I said, see what happens? You take a bag of shit and throw it against the wall, some of it's going to stick.
Well, I'm gonna go one further. You keep throwing the bag of shit at the wall.
Yeah.
After you've thrown it.
Exactly. You pick it up, keep it up, and keep throwing it. Right.
That's the name of the game. It's
right.
I've heard this from a few people. They're just like, it's not who you know, it's about who knows you.
Right.
That's the twist on it. So, the longer you're out there, I'm sure you hear this all the time, the longer you're out there, the more people you meet, the more hands you shake, the more babies you kiss.
Right.
And, there's two golden rules of the business in my assessment.
Okay.
One, play the shit out of your instrument. And two, don't be a dick. Those are the two that'll get you super far. Because if you're waking up next to the best guitar player in the world in the middle of, Palookaville, Arkansas, and he's somebody you don't get along with, you're in trouble. Right. But if you wake up next to somebody that's not the greatest guitar player in the world, can get around the instrument, no matter what instrument it is, but and he's a great guy and your friends, he's got the gig. That's 80% of it. It's just being cool. Because if you're not, and you're causing problems, then it's, it doesn't matter if you're the greatest guitar player in the world, or the greatest bassist in the world, or the greatest clarinet player in the world. It's just about getting along. This industry is people.
Absolutely. Speaking of people, besides your bandmates and everything, are you friends with any well-known musicians? Like, you can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I'm going to be in your town before the gig. Let's grab some sushi," or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like a few to speak of, but it's with people that are well known, for lack of a better word. It's a lot of cats come out to our shows and we get to hang out a little bit and rub elbows. But for me, like, I'm not trying. I don't want to bother anybody.
Right.
I mean, I'm if it ends up working out, then it's amazing. But that's what the beauty is of touring. You get to go around and see all these people if they're in town and off the road and things like that. So the answer is sometimes, but not often.
Right.
But it's like I say, the more you're around, the more of your heroes you end up meeting, which is the coolest thing for me, as somebody that's a younger guy. So I have a lot of influences from all across the board, and I've been fortunate to meet a few. So it's really cool.
Gotcha.
When we were on the Kiss cruise, kind of everybody was standing right there. From Kiss and from, Slash's Snake Pit, and from, the Dead Daisies were there. So everybody's sitting there, Brian Tishy's in the crowd, and I'm just like, oh, dang it. So, but it's really cool. So you get to hang out with, if only for a little bit, with all those cats, and it's awesome. It's like, oh, another day I get to wake up and hang out with people I love. So,
nice.
That's it. Yeah, man.
So here's another question. If you got to play with any musician, dead or alive, who would it be with and why?
No, geez. I love these questions. I'm a big guitar player fan. So I would love to play with Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck is one of my favorites of all time. His voice just speaks on the instrument. So, he's had a real long list of heavyweights behind him. Most notably, in my mind, Vinnie Colaiuta, who is one of my drum heroes. But I would love to play with him. Another one would probably be Sting. Love Sting. He's, again, long list of people. He's got Josh Freese playing with him right now. Josh is a monster. And who else? Man, Hendrix. I would love to take Mitch Mitchell's place for a day, and man, geez, I mean, the list can continue. I'm just a big lover of music, so big lover of guitar players. So anybody that has something to say on their instrument, big fan. Oh, geez, Phil Collins.
Wow.
That's another one. Enough's Enough pokes fun at me on the daily about I have a big love affair with Phil Collins. Big, gigantic love affair with him. But I would, his kid's playing for him right now. He's young. He's like 17 or 18. And Phil's health has been deteriorating over the years, which really sucks to see. But his kid's doing a great job. So I don't know. There's 4. I could probably list you 10.
Right on.
Yeah, man. I could keep going. I mean, each of those people are just like gigantic inspirations for me. So yeah, the list could go on. Really, what it comes down to is, to answer why, would be that they've figured it out. Those artists have such a thumbprint, which in my mind really means a lot, because I think that the more artists you play with that have truly found their voice and have truly really connected their spirit into their instrument, I think the more people you play with like that, I think the closer you get to finding your true voice, or get to take something away from from those kind of people. I mean, Chip being one of those guys, right?
Right.
Chip has his own voice on the instrument. You hear Chip play or you hear Chip sing, it's Chip, you know?
Right.
So I think the more people you play with like that, I think the more you get closer to finding that sort of thing, which I think is really important as artists, right?
Right.
It's really just, having that, hey, you listen to this dude play and it's him.
Right.
It's an elusive concept, but that's kind of my assessment of it anyway. So
right on. Well,
yeah.
The last couple times that I saw you and the pictures I see on all your forms of social media, from the Facebook post to the Instagram posts and everything, you're always smiling. And the couple of the girls that I spoke to that are fans of me, they're mainly fans of you. They wanted to know if you have a girlfriend.
Oh, geez.
And we can always edit this, so if you want to answer it, and then you could say skip or whatever.
I got to be very careful about answering that question.
Okay.
I'm going to answer part of it, though. I'm smiling because I love what I do. And people say, man, what, you're smiling all the time. You're always so stoked. And I'm just like, well, yeah, I get to wake up and play drums every day. Wouldn't you be stoked? It doesn't matter what you're stoked on.
Right.
If you wake up every day and like, man, you're a big fan of doing backflips, guess what you're going to do every day? You're going to wake up and do a backflip. If you're stoked on, waking up and crunching numbers for your accounting firm, whatever it is, I'm just a big advocate of like finding your happiness. And, I'm not up there faking it.
Right.
So I'm just up there cheesing because I'm having a really good time.
Right on.
And very grateful. I try to keep that in the back of my head when I'm playing, it's, you're up here playing music, it's not digging ditches.
It's nice.
If you're not happy doing it, go do something else that makes you happy.
Exactly. All right.
That's sorry. I totally politically dodged the girlfriend question. So
right on. Okay, it's all good.
I totally worked my way around. But
that was good.
I'm going to give you a no response.
Okay, that's cool.
Question.
Nice. All right. So you guys just finished the tour, the Hair Nation tour. It was you guys in Enough. It was the Bullet Boys and Jack Russell's Great White. As we all read, and I'm also friends with the former drummer of the Bullet Boys, Mr. Phil Varone. You were there for the first night, and his last night. Can you shed some light of what happened, if you know anything that happened, or that? I will also plead the fifth on that one. I plead the fifth. I'm going to get Dave Chappelle on here. Right on. Nothing wrong with that.
But from what I understand, Phil's got Red Dragon that he's doing right now.
Yeah.
And he's got, I know he's got a new record and some new music coming out and stuff like that. So it ended up just not working out, and they got Tiny came back. So Tiny was, I'm sure you know Tiny. So Tiny ended up taking his place for the rest of the tour. But yeah, I mean, it's Phil. That's actually the first time I had met Phil, and Phil's a great player, man, and a great dude. So I wish our time was a little bit longer to hang out and chill, but yeah, he's got some other projects going on, and priorities, and you can fill in the rest. So it's
all right. Yeah. All right. So I ask everybody this question. This is a go-to question I always ask because I used to be in the car business. What kind of car do you drive?
Oh man, see, I'm totally not a car guy. I am not a car dude at all. But I drive a GMC Envoy. It's 2005. It's super exotic.
Right on.
Super exotic GMC Envoy.
Is it the SLE or the SLT?
It's the XLT. the extended cab.
Of course, you need it for your drums.
It's totally it right there. So you got to put the drums in the back. It needs to get to point A to point B. And being, a Chicago guy, it's got to drive in snow. So it's 4-wheel drive.
So, okay. All right. So if you didn't become a drummer, what would you be doing?
Ooh. Wow. Oh, that's tough. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be Michael Jordan. Who didn't want to be Michael Jordan? The basketball thing didn't work out, and then I skated for a long time. I was a fruit booter. I did aggressive inline, so I wanted to be a skater for a long time.
Wow,
that's a difficult question for me to answer if I wasn't a drummer, just because I'm grateful and blessed again to be doing something that's always been in me. I've never woken up and been like, man, maybe I want to do something else at all.
Right.
So that's tough for me to wrap my head around. Maybe I'd be a singer because I wouldn't have to bring any gear. Kidding.
Nice.
But I don't know, man. That's a tough one. It's always been in me, you know what I'm saying? So I can't. It's hard for me to make an assessment. Probably something. This is going to get existential, but I'm a big fan of using music as a way to make people's lives better, for lack of a better turn of phrase.
Gotcha.
So probably something in like humanitarianism.
Right on.
I feel like music is it gives me a way to, even if somebody's day gets better, just by playing music, right? So, you never know who's going to show up to your show. So it's kind of like music missionary work. Right. So if somebody shows up to your show, they're having a terrible week. Maybe they got a divorce. Maybe they're going through some sickness. Maybe, whatever it is. And they come to your show. And at the end of it, they're just like, hey, like you really like changed my week. You changed my day. You changed my whatever. Thank you. And I think that's really what it's all about. It's not about us. It's about the circle. We're all there in it together. And so probably something in like humanitarian work, saving the rainforest, or I don't know.
Wow, Super Dan, there you go.
I don't know, something like that.
Okay, couple more questions because I know you have to head out and return Chip's call and whatnot. He's probably worried.
Oh man, I could sit here in soapbox and rap with you all day, my man.
Right on. So, do you have a favorite Enuff song?
Ooh, yes, I do. I have a few.
Okay. Playing it as well as, so it can either be playing or just listening to.
Sure. Blue Island is one of my favorite tunes.
Awesome.
Really love that song. I wish we would play it. As far as the new stuff, here's a funny story. So on the new record, right, there's a song called Faith, Hope, and Love. That's probably one of my personal favorites to play on the record.
Right.
So when we did that record, I actually tracked that record in a day.
Holy crap.
7.5 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, and I didn't even, I can get into this if you want, but
yeah.
I didn't even have all the songs up until the day before. So, I didn't even, I had listened to them in Chip's kitchen, but I hadn't had time to go through an arrangement or write parts. So I was on his couch, I had finished up a record at CRC the day previous before we started recording this thing. And they basically tacked on a day and Chip's like, hey man, bro, you got to get in there and track this thing. And he's like, whatever you don't get done doesn't make the record. I'm like, oh my God.
No pressure.
So, yeah, no pressure. So I was up on his couch till 3:30 in the morning after finishing up another record. I finished another record in 2 days over there, drums and percussion. So I got through 4 songs, charting them out, and then went in there and smashed it. But that was kind of intense. I don't think I've ever done a record in a day. So when you listen to that record, there's really, really minimal, comping on that thing, because there was no time to do more than a couple of takes for each of those songs, because you had to get through, 11, 12 songs in the matter of a day, less than a day, 7.5 hours. So But Faith, Hope, and Love on the new one. I love Blue Island. Of course, Mother's Eyes. Love that tune. Geez. I mean, there's so many. Basically anything off Strength. Anything off Self-Titled. Anything off Tweaked. I mean, there's too many to list. Because the more and more I listen through the catalog, as somebody who's only been in the band, I've only been in the band 2.5 years, but I think I have a pretty good handle on the stuff at this point. But there's just so many good tunes. You kind of just throw a pebble and you hit a good song. Right. So that's a testament to Chip and Donnie and everybody else involved. And hopefully we get to make some more new records here in the future.
Well, we do play the new album quite frequently, because
thank you.
I love it. Metal Heart and Diamond Boy, does get played on a decent amount of rotation and everything. And I play it just listening to it just in the car or whatever, or wherever I am. Because believe it or not, I still have a CD player in the car. So
do I, man. 2005 GMC Envoy, represent.
Absolutely. So that's the next question is what's in your CD player right now?
Ooh, so I've been listening to a lot of Keith Richards. Okay. And the vintage vinos, right? So a lot of that, a lot of Michael Jackson, a ton of this guy. I don't know if you know him, Theo Katzman. Do you know that name?
No.
So Theo Katzman, he plays in a band called Wolfpack. Do you know that name?
I know the name. I know their music though.
Yeah, Wolfpack. They're an instrumental funk band.
Right.
So Theo's from Michigan, actually. So he's a Midwestern guy. But man, that dude, oh God. You listen to anything he does and it's just so much soul in it. And it's truly unbelievable stuff. So a lot of Theo Katzman. He's got a new record out. It's called Heartbreak Hits. So what else, man? Beach Boys. There's this other guy, his name's Jameson. I don't know if you know him. He spells it Jmsn. Tons of obscure stuff. A lot of down tempo stuff. I bounce across, Churches, that band?
Yes.
Super electronic-y. I've been listening to them. I'm excited for the new Tool stuff to come out.
If it ever comes out.
If it ever comes out, I know, man. I'm a big fan of Danny Carey's drumming. So,
who isn't?
Yeah.
I'm not a drummer, and I'm just like, huh? Every time I listen to it.
Oh, he's brilliant. I mean, I'm aging myself here, but when I was a kid, when Lateralis and all that came out, I would be skating in my driveway, jumping over garbage cans, listening to that record and more, that in Morning View.
Right.
So that's been a big influence. That was a big influence on me growing up. So anything Tool does, I could run the gamut, man. I'm all across the board when it comes to music. So I've been getting back into the Yellow Jackets, if you know them.
Yes.
A lot
Actually, Chip turned me on to them, believe it or not.
Really? That's crazy. Yeah. So I love Will Kennedy, great player. Spyro Gyra. Right. Vital Information, all that kind of fusion-y stuff. I'm a big fusion fan. So
me too. Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Oh, dude.
Mike Stern.
There you go. How about Bela Fleck?
Oh yeah, I saw him in with Future Man and what's his name, Victor Wooten, and I was thank God the floor was freaking clean because my mouth was dropped down to the floor the whole time. I was like, oh my God, man plays banjo like that?
Fill up a 5-gallon bucket with drool on that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, wow. So, I saw them twice. I saw them once solo, and then I also saw them. They opened up for Dave Matthews Band. So
sure,
which was pretty cool.
I mean, I think everybody as a drummer has a Carter Beauford kick, right? You have to get into it at some point. So exactly. I remember I had mine back in the day, just watching the DVDs over and over again. Right. But yeah, man, I mean, it's all across the board. It really depends on the day. When I wake up, it's like, what are you in the mood for dinner? Right. It's such a wide, world out there when it comes to music. So But yeah, the big one right now is Theo Katzman for sure. So if you don't know him, check him out. You know, he'll blow your brains out. It's so good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple more questions, like I said. When you hear an Enough's Enough song on the radio, which is totally not common anymore, unfortunately, but I'm trying to change that. You turn it up or you turn it down or you change the station?
Ooh. So when we were on the road, we were in some random gas station. We actually stopped it. We did a picture. I don't know if you saw this, but we hit like our 200th service station on the tour.
Yeah, I did see that.
It's like our 200th gas station. So, I was actually moving the van around to a different gas pump and, was listening to XM and Diamond Boy came on. So of course you turn that up. You turn the knob to 11, because it's how often do you get to hear yourself on the radio? Sure. It's a body of work that we're all really, we're pretty proud of. So, I don't think that's ever going to get old,
Right.
Hearing your drums on the radio. Hopefully it happens more than less. It's a super cool feeling. You get to feel, I feel pretty stoked when that happens. Like, oh shit,
right on.
Songs on the radio. Oh, songs on the radio. So yeah, turn that thing up and then,
right.
Call home and, Mom, I heard myself on the radio again. No, I'm kidding. But,
nice.
Yeah, turn that thing all the way up.
Sweet. Okay. So now it's time for plugging. Where are you and how can people find you?
Sure. So I'm heavy up on the Instagram machine and not so much the Twitter machine, but mostly Instagram. So on Instagram, it's at Dan Hill Drums. On Twitter, it's at Dan Hill Drums. My website is danielhilldrums.com. I'm doing some maintenance on that right now. The tech monkeys are hard at work. So Facebook, I've got a page. I think it's at Dan Hill Drums as well, or Daniel Hill Drums as well. But if you type in at Dan Hill Drums anywhere, you'll be able to find it. You can find everything Enough's Enough at enoughsenough.com. We're all pretty active on social media. If you hit me up on any of those things, I will respond to you. I'm not one of those people that are just like, that don't respond. It's social media. You got to respond, and I'll talk to you about anything for 90 days. If you want to talk drums, you want to talk about anything, I'm that dude. So feel free to reach out. I'm an open book when it comes to people that are, especially, younger drummers. Consider myself a resource for you guys. It's what it's all about. Let's have some fun. Let's get nerdy.
Absolutely.
So that's it.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much. Jay and I are very grateful. I'm sure your fans are also my fans. Love seeing you guys on the road. I know you guys have a couple more dates for the end of this tour, and then you guys are taking a little break and then going back out, or are you guys going to go back in the studio?
So next year, there's a whole slew of dates coming through right now, of which I cannot talk about. The one I can talk about is that we're going to be in London again at the Camden Underworld February. So you can use your 2+2 skills to to make an assessment as to how long we'll be there. But yeah, we'll be over in the UK again next year. I won't say where other than the Underworld, but yeah, a lot of more dates coming through. So stay tuned on that on the old snuffsnuff.com. So really excited to get back out there and do it.
Sweet. Well, Dan, like I said, from my fans to your fans, my family, and Jay's fans and family, thank you so much for taking the opportunity to talking to us today. I very much appreciate it.
I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Love you more. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. You guys have a great rest of the day and enjoy the weekend.